Our new cases from the web are up 29%. I tell Jay every year, I just want to get 20% better every year. And he's blowing that out of the water this year like he does most years. And so that's a big one. And I love that you also keep in there our cost per case, because that's what attorneys really care about. And so we do track our cost per case per office. And we try to make sure that it's below a reasonable amount. So for us, that's anything less than $3,000 is decent.
Yeah, so many times we meet a new prospect and I ask them, like, how many leads do you get every month and how many cases do you sign? And they really don't have any idea. And most of them have no clue. They might generally say, 15 or 20 cases a month, but they have no clue their cost per case or their value per case. And I bet you know to the dollar, right, Geoff?
Yeah, you want to track your marketing spend. So you want to track your cost per case and your average acquisition cost. And you also want to track your average fee per case. And you want to make sure that it's within your sweet spot.
And there's not that many numbers, but like Geoff said, 27 numbers, you can run your business. Well, welcome everyone. My name is Jay Berkowitz, and we'll meet our very special guest, Geoff McDonald, in 2 minutes. Today's case study is about what happens when a law firm puts all the pieces together. When marketing, culture, innovation, and execution line up perfectly. We're going behind the scenes to a powerhouse firm that's now consistently signing over 100 cases a month and even 200 in a recent month. And you'll see all the data, but this doesn't happen by luck or one viral ad or something like that. You check in all the boxes and doing it super consistently and executing. The marketing's dialed in. They've got TV, radio, billboards, digital, SEO. It builds trust and recognition and leads. And they've embraced AI and automation and an offshore support team and a winning office culture, and they're deeply rooted in their local community. So when strategy meets execution, you get the wins. And you don't have to do everything, but you've got to do a lot of things and do a lot of things right. So grab your notepad. We're going to take you through all this. So today we're going to discover how Geoff McDonald scaled to over 100 new cases a month. We're going to talk about a website redesign that got a 44% increase in cases. Measure what matters, all the details, all the numbers. And we see, the firm's consistently getting over 100 cases a month and 200 cases a couple months ago. Just crushing it in Google Maps, coming up in #1 position. Doing a great job in the community. Some killer TV ads. Technology and innovation. And even ranking in Google's new AI SEO, and we'll talk about how to get there. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce my friend Geoff McDonald and tell you a little bit about Geoff's background. He did his BA at the University of Virginia, actually grew up in Hawaii doing a lot of surfing. His Juris Doctor at the University of Richmond School of Law. He's the CEO and president attorney at Geoff McDonald Associates. Has obtained over 400 million in settlements. I think that's up to like 800 million. 200 written opinions, 46 Court of Appeals or workers' comp opinions. Past president of the Richmond Rotary and a number of other local community volunteer work. National Lawyers Trial Top 100. He's a camp director for the Derby Camp Richmond, and we'll learn more about that. And he loves surfing, but he's currently on the IR, hopefully back on the boards in the summer. Right, Geoff?
Hopefully.
Welcome. And you're going to tell everyone a little bit about me.
Okay. Well, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Jay Berkowitz. Simply put, Jay is the man. If you have any internet marketing needs, look no further than Jay. And I mean that sincerely. I met Jay probably about 8 years ago when our internet marketing literally fell off a cliff. He was kind enough to point this out to me, and we knew something was up. We had just moved. We forgot our moving checklist, and Google forgot about us, apparently. And so he got us back on track. It took a little bit of hard work, but Jay's really an amazing guy. He was the marketing director for Coca-Cola, McDonald's, and Sprint, all in Canada. He started ediets.com, built it to a $60 million company. He founded 10 Golden Rules, which he currently runs. And hopefully we got in early with 10 Golden Rules. He works exclusively with personal injury law firms and some other law firms. He is a global ambassador for See the Good, which is just an amazing nonprofit. He's the founder of Legal Profit Partners. And so he's what you call, Malcolm Gladwell calls a maven. People are attracted to him. He started a peer group, mastermind group for other folks in his space. And not surprisingly, he's a former hockey goalie, which is, to me, it's like the quarterback on the team. Loves doubles tennis, as do I, because you don't have to run that much. And there's a lot of other things I could say about Jay. But anyway, welcome, Jay.
Jeff, that's awesome. I'm going to take you on my speaking gigs. You can be my hype man. I appreciate that very much. Jeff hinted at the story, and I put this slide up at a conference where we do an audit and we do an analysis on everybody's websites. And I was kind enough to take the names off because there's always a couple people who have fallen off the Google cliff. And we talk about when the SEO keywords, and this website was up to 1,300 keywords. This one's actually not Jeff's. It was a very similar graph where they fell from about 1,300 keywords to about 150 keywords. And Jeff came running up to me after the presentation and said, I know that's me. I know that I was the guy in that slide, and our leads have fallen way off. And so we agreed to do an audit for them. And we found 2 or 3 things that were pretty significant. Jeff mentioned they'd moved locations and they changed their Google address, but they didn't close the old Google address. I guess they just opened a new one. And so all this disinformation was being sent to Google. And in fact, the old address was now under construction and people couldn't even get into the site. And they were complaining to Google. And there was a number of other problems. Like the old website had been optimized for any kind of SEO, not personal injury law firm SEO. They were ranking for things previously like flowering trees in Virginia, things to do with your kids in the summer in Virginia. So there was a number of different cleanups, including some pretty significant technical things on the website. And after chipping away 3 or 4 of those different things, we finally started to get the SEO to turn in the right direction. So if you feel like you've fallen off the Google cliff, give us a call at 10 Golden Rules and we can definitely help. So without further ado, let's jump into the case study. And we're just going to do this fairly conversationally. And Jeff's like a superstar expert in some of these areas. So I'm going to turn this one over to him. But one of the main reasons why I wanted him to share his expertise with you today is because he does so many things very well on the firm side. And one of them is he got this book and he's like, Jay, you got to read this book. And his whole management team read this book. And they really are super focused on the numbers and the numbers that matter. So I'll let Jeff talk a little bit more about this book and this business philosophy.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I actually read this book 5 years ago when I was at the Western Trial Lawyers Conference. I read it on the beach. I read the whole thing, and I was just blown away by what it said. It's written by John Doerr, of course, but he worked with Andy Grove at Intel. Intel, of course, was Time Magazine's Man of the Year. He helped start something called OKRs, which stands for Objectives and Key Results, which is a really, really cool and effective goal setting and execution strategy, which was adopted by Google. John Doerr was and is one of the largest shareholders over at Google, and they used it. They rolled out their playbook exactly how they did it. It's so simple. It's almost elegant. It's color-coded. I can't believe that it's out there and more people aren't reading it. It's sort of like John Wooden's book on coaching, The Greatest Coach Ever. He laid it out. Nobody reads the book. Curt Cignetti, Indiana's coach, he should have a book. But it's just amazing the things that certain people do and the information that's out there. And we implemented this in our management team 5 years ago. It took us a year to roll it out to all of our people. And prior to implementing OKRs, which is from this book, our average growth was about 14% a year. Since we implemented it, our average growth is about 27% a year. And so it's really cool. So yes, we pay attention to the numbers.
One of my business coaches says, what you measure and pay attention to improves.
Absolutely.
And so that's the key thing. So you look at the numbers. How do you do that in a business sense? Is this weekly? Is it daily?
Well, there is something called death by numbers, and I was accused of doing that by my business coach. And so he said, Jeff, you don't need daily numbers. You don't really need weekly numbers. He said monthly numbers are fine, although there is a report we get. It's called our weekly report, and we look at it. And so basically, it's probably about 27 different numbers. You can imagine what most of them are, how many calls, how many new cases, revenue. We track the percentages of each. We track our inventory. We track our individual case count. We track receivables, and probably about 10 or 15 other numbers that I can't think of right now. But we look at them weekly, and we look at them monthly, and then quarterly and annually.
Awesome. And we track numbers monthly and meet with Jeff and the team. And some of the things we look at, high-level website users, and then the really important are all the types of leads. And so typically phone calls, we're up 129% year over year. Chats are up 100%. And interestingly, form fills are down, which is a good thing. And we'll talk a little bit about that. And then this report is actually about 5 pages long. We look at the Google ad spend. So the firm actually spent about $29,000 to generate about 5,000 clicks. But what really matters is how many signed paid cases. And so we work very closely with the team to see what's working, what's getting leads and what's getting cases. So about $47 cost per lead, 14 signed cases, and $1,300 cost per case.
And this virtually mirrors our internal numbers, probably because we get them from you. But I will tell you that one of the numbers we track are web calls from the internet. They happen to be up 182% this year. Our new cases from the web are up 29%. I tell Jay every year, I just want to get 20% better every year. And he's blowing that out of the water this year, like he does most years. And so that's a big one. And I love that you also keep in there our cost per case, because that's what attorneys really care about. And so we do track our cost per case per office. And we try to make sure that it's below a reasonable amount. So for us, that's anything less than $3,000 is decent.
Yeah, so many times we meet a new prospect and I ask them, like, how many leads do you get every month and how many cases do you sign? And they really don't have any idea. And most of them have no clue. They might generally say, 15 or 20 cases a month, but they have no clue their cost per case or their value per case. And I bet you know to the dollar, right, Jeff?
Yeah, you want to track your marketing spend. So you want to track your cost per case and your average acquisition cost. And you also want to track your average fee per case. And you want to make sure that it's within your sweet spot.
And there's not that many numbers, but like Jeff said, 27 numbers, you can run your business.
Yeah.
And it's the same for us. We use the EOS operating system at 10 Golden Rules, and we probably have about 27 numbers across 4 departments. Small point to make here, we actually present this slide. It's the 3rd or 4th slide in every client meeting. And we ask our client for SMART objectives, strategic, measurable, timeline numbers. And frankly, Jeff's numbers are the most precise of anyone. It's pretty simple. They want us to increase leads from the internet 20% year over year, and we measure that quarterly, and increase SEO traffic 15% year over year and measured quarterly. Obviously, we look at a 4-page report, but those are the objectives. And then we talk, these are the projects that we're running and future projects that we might have added or deleted on a monthly basis. And we review this priority every month with his team. Jeff attributes a tremendous amount of success with the firm to a nearshore team. So I'll let him speak to that.
Yeah, so you never know what's going to be a game changer for you. And what we found is that our offshoring, our entry-level positions, so that's really all of our pre-litigation paralegals and all of our new intake employees are all offshore. Currently, we have 16 offshore folks. We have 2 more in the pipeline. And we call them nearshore because it's the same time zone. So they're not in the Philippines. They're not in India. They're in Colombia. Most of them are in Cartagena, Colombia. And the big reason we do it is because the cost savings is just great. And so typically our people costs, we try to keep them in a law firm all in, including benefits, under 40%. Unfortunately, with inflation following COVID, et cetera, they're creeping up towards 50%. Because we've been able to offshore so many of our folks and do it effectively, our people costs are hovering right at 32% right now, which is great. And so that puts us in a position to be leaner and meaner and more competitive. And it works great. I'm happy to talk to anybody about it offline if it seems daunting or, oh, we can't do that. Our clients won't be able to understand their accented English. That's all false. We haven't had a single complaint from a single client. Oh, I can't understand Jose's English. They're all bright young college graduates, and they love working. They work hard. They don't miss work. They live in a country where their unemployment rate is about 3 times ours. It's about 9.6% last time I looked versus about 3.2% here. So they're happy to work, and they really bring a cool international vibe to our firm. And of course, they join us in our biweekly huddles on Wednesday and Friday. We just love having them as part of our team.
Yeah, I think with technology and remote work, our team's entirely remote, and we have people in 5 or 6 different countries. Some of them started here in America and ended up going back to their home countries. And it's smooth, it works well, but it's a different management style. Like, you have to do a lot of teamwork on the Zoom meetings that you would have done over the coffee water cooler. So
absolutely. We send them all of our GMA swag, our T-shirts, our coffee cups, our koozies, all of that. They love it when they get care packages from us. They love joining us on our huddles. We do shout outs every Friday, shout out Friday. And so it's just amazing to see how much of our team they are. And you brought up a good point. It's like, probably pre-COVID, I wouldn't have considered hiring employees who interface with our clients overseas. And people say, Geoff, well, do they talk to the clients? Absolutely. They do everything that a paralegal would do in here, because obviously Zoom works in South America the same way it does here. And I don't know if you remember this, Jay, but the last time I was fortunate enough to be invited on your podcast, I talked about inflection points probably the whole time. And what that means is that, hey, what we're talking about right now might not be what we're talking about this time next year, because things are changing so fast. And an inflection point, of course, is something that it's a major shift in the environment. And typically by the time you figure out it's happened, it's too late. You're already dead. And so it's really important to get ahead of these. And of course, the biggest one currently, I believe, is AI, although we haven't found a way to quantify how much it's actually helping us. Although we're all in on AI, we are currently building out KPIs to help track it. Technology or remote work has allowed us to offshore folks. I never thought that would be such a big game changer, but a lot of the growth that we've been experiencing in the past couple of years is because we've also been able to do everything that our marketing agencies, our ad agencies have suggested we do, including Jay, and everything they want us to do. Not everything, but most things cost money. Where's this money going to come from? When you can keep your people costs down, it's like all of a sudden you can afford to spend money on things that you weren't able to do in the past. And so for us, that's been the biggest game changer of all.
Yeah, you made a great point about the inflection points. In the 10 Golden Rules, which is the basic presentation book I built my company around, golden rule number 10 is lead the trends. And the concept there is that when you see something happening, and I think it's my rule of threes, like I'll hear about something on a podcast, one of my buddies in my mastermind will mention it, and I'll maybe see a blog about it. And it's like, okay, I've seen this 3 times from 3 sources. I'm digging deep and I'm going to figure it out. And that's things like the local service ads, Google Screen, when it first came out, we got all over that and did a webinar and became seen as an expert and became an expert in our industry. And now AI and AI SEO that we'll talk about. But I know, Geoff, you jump on these things. How do you personally decide when something's at an inflection point and you've got to jump in and figure it out?
That's a great question. When is something truly an inflection point, and when is it just noise? And unfortunately, sometimes you don't know until it already come and everything's changed and you're left in the dust. And so I would say that for me, I try to stay informed. I don't have access to the same mastermind group that you have every month with all your big brain tech guys. However, I do read the Wall Street Journal every Saturday and most days, particularly the business section. And almost always they're leading off with a story on something tech related. And AI, I believe, is real, just because, I have a friend who's a lobbyist, y'all. When I ask him about a bill, he says, you got to follow the money. Well, follow the money. Look at the money that's going into AI. It's real. It's going to be going in that direction probably for the next 10 years. These investments are huge. And the way it's changing society, it's just, and everything, it's just amazing. I'll just give you a couple examples. And I know we don't have that much time, but and I know this could be the subject of an entire webinar. But just for our space, in the personal injury space, we've come to rely on 4 different tools. We have a great case management tool. And just for the record, there are several really, really good companies out there. And most of them will tell you, because they're very honest, they will tell you that, hey, don't sign any long-term contracts because the technology is changing so fast and it's getting so much better. So we have a case management tool, which will allow us to draft a demand letter in 45 seconds, which in the past, maybe it took an hour or two. We can answer interrogatories, something that in the past might take a few hours or longer. I could do it again in 45 seconds because it pulls all the data from your system. It could draft a federal mediation statement, 25-page mediation statement in about a minute and a half. Again, it just pulls everything from your ecosystem. And so that's one tool. And another tool that we use.
To your case management software?
Pardon me?
You're connecting the AI tool to your case management software?
Absolutely. So it's part of our ecosystem. And so it can go in there and it can slice and dice information any way we want. Most importantly, it doesn't get outside of our environment. We also have another tool that
we talked about this a little bit.
Yeah.
Is to jump in. And I'm sure you guys had a bunch of bumps on the road with this, and you're not even perfect. You might be making some changes, you said, but the key thing is get in. Everyone's going to hate change, but sure enough, once they can take their 1-hour project down to a minute and a half, they're going to love it. And you're going to do course improvement along the way.
Yeah. So I think you probably have these numbers better than I do, Jay, but maybe 1 or 2% are innovators, maybe 10 to 15 are early adopters. And then you've got a bunch of people who just wait and see. So we try to be very proactive. And so we try to follow best practices. So we have training, robust training on all of our AI tools. And we continue it every week, every management meeting. We have a moment, AI moment where somebody talks about a win or something that really worked for them. We have cheerleaders. We identify the folks that are using the most, the super users, and we get them to beat the drum. We have a separate AI tool that is used in depositions in court, which helps us ask smarter questions during depositions and try to catch people in inconsistencies, which our attorneys rave about. We have a research tool called Lexis AI. And of course, we also have Copilot, which I like. I'm actually one of the super users. It's the only thing I'm a super user on, and it just helps you get emails out just really fast and efficient. And it actually makes you seem like a nice guy because my emails tend to be short and curt. And when I read them, it's like, ooh, that sounds kind of rude. And when you use AI, it's like, oh, just a nice guy.
Yeah, that's awesome. I actually had an AI that was based on the disc profile, and it was writing emails for me based on the person's personality, and they pulled that tool. I really liked it.
Wow. I may want to talk to you offline about that. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, it's called Crystal Knows, but I don't know why they pulled the AI portion of it. So Next up, I want to talk about the Morgan & Morgan trick. And this, please, folks, don't fall for this trick, because lots and lots of our clients and our prospects are coming to us and say, we want to put the nice big form on our website like Morgan & Morgan, because Morgan & Morgan's the biggest law firm in the country. They must know what they're doing. And they do know what they're doing. They're trying to trick you guys, because 200,000 times a month, people search for Morgan & Morgan. And when they go to the website, they fill out the form and they wait by the phone for Morgan & Morgan to call them back. For all the rest of us, I think this is a huge mistake. We tested this with Geoff on pay-per-click landing pages. We tested a landing page with a big form and a landing page with a big call to action phone number. And we got way more phone numbers and way more cases by featuring the phone number over the form. So when we redid Geoff's website, we did the entire website that way. We took the form off the homepage, the Morgan & Morgan trick, and we put the phone number and call the phone number as the call to action on the desktop, and obviously more importantly on the mobile website. And in the same number of months, we went from 467 calls to 1,290 calls. That's 176 increase in calls, but most importantly, a 44% increase in cases. And what I explained to everybody is when you get someone on the phone, particularly for personal injury, it might be different if you're a big corporate law firm. When you get someone on the phone, you're going to convert between 20 and 24% on average. Geoff probably knows his exact number. When people fill out a form and you call them back, about half the time they don't even pick up the phone. Even if you text them and saying, hey, it's Geoff McDonald Law Firm, they don't even pick up the phone because they might have even hired another law firm already. So don't fall for the Morgan trick, and definitely go for that type of website design. Next up.
Jay, you're spot on with that. We got our new website. We beta tested a few things. We beta tested the big form and the small form, and the small one is definitely better. We also beta tested colors, I believe, and I think that, I can't remember what the winning color was, but it definitely made a difference. And make no mistake, John Morgan is everywhere. I consider him a friend. We've worked together in the past on different projects. He really is a great guy. I know he's the one everyone loves to hate because he just shows up at the worst time. But he does a lot. He does a lot of things right. But I feel like we're doing this better than he is.
Yeah, and the ultimate is test and confirm, right? So next up, Geoff talks a lot about, well, I believe he talks more passionately in his core values, and he also explained the importance of his core focus. So I'll let him explain how they communicate this with their team.
Yeah, so we've always had core values, and our core values are what we've had for 10 years, and they're just sort of what we believe in. And I know that other people have different core values than we do, but we believe in shooting straight. And so we want to be the law firm that when we tell you something or we tell a judge something, he can take it to the bank. He doesn't have to second guess what we're telling him. Helping others, so we're very service oriented. So we have a servant ethos. We're very involved in the community through things like backpack giveaways. We sponsor several sports teams. We sponsor pregame meals for several football teams. We're flying a football team and a cheerleading team down to Florida for a national championship, which is very exciting because
Awesome.
we have a lot of former football players in the office. And so we believe in having a servant ethos. We believe in teamwork. We work together as a team. As you know, we're a personal injury law firm, but we really have 5 different sections in our office. We have a pre-litigation section, a litigation section, a workers' compensation section, an intake team, and a bookkeeping team. And believe me, we all have to get along with everybody, especially the people on the bookkeeping team, because we all want to get paid on Friday. We believe in kindness, which is kind of counterintuitive for a law firm because most clients want their attorney to be a pit bull off the chain, which I think there's probably a time and a place for that. But for the most part, you want to hang out with good people like Jay and people that you want to be around, not just people that you're just spending time with. So kindness is a core value, and then growth is another core value. We believe that you're either growing or dying. And so we all focus on growth, both personal and professional growth. And so when I attend a conference, which I do at least once a month, I bring my entire 18 management person there just so they can learn along with me and they can get buy-in as well. And Jay kind of mentioned reading a book. Our management team also is always working on a book. And one of the first things we do is somebody reports on a chapter from a book. And interestingly, a lot of successful companies do that as well. But we also have something called a core focus. And a core focus, core values are who you are. That speaks to who you really are. They're not aspirational, but our core focus is what separates us from the other guys. And why should they hire Jay instead of the other guy or Geoff instead of the other guy? And we focus really hard on separating ourselves from the other guy. And so we've got 3 core focuses. And one, of course, is technology. So you heard me talk about AI, which is just one facet of technology that we've been leaning into to help our clients and to help each other. Also, client service is really big. I think in our main market, we have more Google reviews than all of our competitors combined because we really work very hard to give them a good client experience. And of course, building value is somewhere that we also focus on. We try to get that average fee up, and we try to show our clients the money and make them feel that just by hiring us, there's value added in that. So that's our core values and core focus.
I love that. And frankly, that's going to help me explain. We've been sharing that we have 3 legs to our stool. And the first one is helping our clients attract more leads. But we're doing a lot of work in intake and conversion. We'll talk a little bit about that. And we're also focused on 5-star operations, helping the firms provide 5-star operations so we can get the 5-star reviews and they can get the 5-star reviews. Selfishly, I want them for SEO purposes, but obviously our clients' customers are looking at their reviews and also referrals. If they provide 5-star operations, a 5-star service, you all are going to get more referrals from your partner attorneys and your vendors and your MRI clinics and chiropractors, and of course from past clients. So I love that core values and core focus. I'll be stealing that, Jeff. So you touched a little bit on your culture. You want to just spend a minute more and talk about that?
Yeah. So again, our culture really does speak to our core values. We like to feel we are who we say we are. We are the good guys, and we like to have fun. Of course, our job can be very stressful at times, but we like to think of us as Robin Hood. We take from the rich and give to the poor, but we take very, very good care of our married men and women, and we like to have a good time. If you look at our Facebook page and scroll down, you'll see the things we've been doing for Halloween. Christmas is coming up. We celebrate anniversaries. We celebrate birthdays. When we have an opportunity in the community to go out, people fight over who gets to go. We can't all go because someone's got to stay in the office, but everybody likes to go out and hang out with the football players and go out in the community.
So I'll skip ahead.
Yeah, that's a big part of what we focus on.
Don't forget about the football camp, but maybe talk about community activities.
So we do an offensive lineman camp every year. Most years, COVID did interrupt us for a few years, but it's just a labor of love for us. We believe that there's a lot of correlation between what an offensive lineman does and what we do as attorneys. We protect injury victims and their families, and the offensive lineman protects the quarterback. And I was an offensive lineman in another life. And we fly coaches in from Hawaii who have been putting this camp on for over 20 years. And we have it here in different places. And it's for kids 8 to 18. And it's just been so awesome to watch kids literally go from an 8-year-old all the way up to one just signed with Navy, one's at the University of Virginia. And these are all the kids who are like our standouts in camp, like camper of the year, best technique, that kind of thing. And so it's really been a lot of fun for me. We usually get some good recognition from the TV stations when we do it because everybody likes these types of stories. But mostly our office loves it as an excuse to get out in the summertime and just have fun.
And I might describe your community activity as you guys pick, it seems like about a dozen. I know you used to sort of line them up by month, but you pick about a dozen major activities and go deep in each one. If it's a fun run, your team's there and you're running and you guys got company t-shirts on, and a lot of the stuff, you guys are on the committees and on the boards, and the football camp, you guys are the major sponsor. But you want to talk a little bit about how you really pay back, not only with writing a check, but getting involved.
I've always hated the phrase, we give back to the community, because it makes it seem like you went somewhere. Well, we never went somewhere. We've always been here. We've always been embedded in the community. The people who work here, several of them are people that I met through community involvement that I had. For example, Taj Henley, my operations manager, who was kind enough to get this set up for me. I met him in a reading program that I was supporting and sponsored. Actually, that I started way back in the 90s when Taj was 10. He's 42 now. So that tells you how long ago that was. My outside intake manager, Jesse Pellarosa, I met him when he was 9 or 10 also, when I was volunteering with a boxing program in Hillside Court here in Richmond in the early 90s. And I don't think I need to remind you what was going on in this country in the early 90s. It was a pretty insane time. But it was just an opportunity to try to give kids a couple hours to just chill and have fun and zone everything out that was going on the outside. And so both of those guys ended up graduating at the top of their class in high school, getting a college degree, playing college sports, playing professionally. And now, fortunately, they came back home and they're working with me. So it's really worked out for us.
I love it. So the next piece we'll talk a little bit about our area. We work so closely together is search engine optimization. And we mentioned that the website fell off the Google cliff and we've been growing ever since. One of the things that's super prominent these days is AEO, that we're calling in the industry answer engine optimization. or the AI SEO, search engine optimization. And we're getting tremendous results for Geoff, and something that we've been actually laying the foundation for the last 4 or 5 years. And so if you search Virginia construction accident lawyer, Google is showing the AI overviews. It's essentially their version of ChatGPT. And there's a lot of excitement around ChatGPT, but it's still only about 5% the number of searches of Google searches. So it's super important that we're still optimizing for Google every way possible. And so what's really exciting is when a website contributes to the answer. So Google's showing their homework. These are the websites they use to compile this answer. And Geoff's coming up in a huge number of these results. This one, obviously, they're the second website they used. And these little links, by the way, are active links. And these are links out to the website. So we're starting to see a lot of traffic from these AI results over to websites. Incidentally, the website's the number 2 on the SEO, on the traditional SEO. And so that's significant that when you do well in SEO, like Google's basically going to pull from the top first page results to compile the answer to a question on the SEO. And we're getting a number of these results. Can you get laid off while on light duty? And essentially the reason we call it AEO, or answer engine optimization, is because for the most part, Google and ChatGPT are answering questions. So what we've been doing, as I mentioned, proactively for the last 4 or 5 years, due to this new structure of the search engines, is we're providing the answers to the questions. So Geoff records the answer on video. What happens if I get hit by an Uber or Lyft? And we shoot about 20 or 25 of these videos at one time. So we use Geoff's time efficiently. He does that really quickly in a couple hours. And then we post these videos on YouTube, and they're search engine optimized. So we've got actually the question we're trying to focus on from an SEO perspective as the title of the video and the title of a blog post. And then we use the videos in the blog posts. And then we also cost effectively use the videos in things like social media posts, newsletters, and on Google Maps, which is its own very important SEO algorithm. So the moral of the story is you're designing SEO for AEO, answer engine optimization. And Geoff's done a great job. He's probably done about 300 of these videos over the last 4 or 5 years. And it started coming up very consistently in those AEOs.
So, Jay, thanks for bringing that up. It was a little frustrating at first because we've been working so hard to crack the Google nut. And we finally felt like, hey, we're getting some traction. We're ranking towards the top. And then I asked ChatGPT when it came out. I think it was maybe November of 23, but I'm not sure exactly, but it's coming up on 3 years, I think. And I asked them who the best law firms were in Richmond, and they didn't even list me. And most of the ones they listed weren't even from Richmond. So somebody had gotten in there before we did. So I'm glad we're showing up on the AI search too.
Some other things that we're doing on the websites to rank for AEO, you want to cover topics comprehensively with detailed explanations and real examples. Bulleted lists seem to rank really well. And then there's some specific website code. And if you don't know this, when you left click, so on the left side of your mouse, it brings up a menu, and then you can view the page source, the actual code on a website. But this is some of the schema code on Geoff's website. And this is pretty technical, but the simple version is Google and Yahoo and all the search engines got together about 10 years ago. And they said, let's come up with some common code that it'll be super easy for us to read and know exactly what the website's trying to tell us. Things like your address, what kind of business you are, what type of organization, if you're a legal service. Originally, there was about 10 schema codes. Now there's over 800. And there's attorney schema and FAQ schema. And again, this is technical, but here's a good question to ask your webmaster or your SEO company. Are you guys doing schema code for us? And then this is just right from Google's guidelines on how to write FAQ schema, question and answer schema. It's also called structured data, article schema, news schema. There's schema that makes it easy for you to read a blog without all the distractions, the images and everything like that. So these are a number of things we're doing to rank in AEO or AI SEO. The other area where Geoff McDonald's killing it is in Google Maps. And this is a graphic representation of where they come up in Richmond when you search, regular search in Google. but the Google Maps result, the 3-pack it's called, and it's not always this perfect, but we did grab this screenshot where they were number one in the entire 10-mile grid, starting at their office. And there's a number of things we do for Google Maps. Geoff actually does the hardest work in getting lots and lots of Google reviews. So we see 952. I think it's even more than that today. You also want to make sure that you've got very consistent listings in all of your local listings. And there's like 300 local listing websites that pull from some of the big players like Yellow Pages Online and Yext and things like that. And so we've got to make sure that we're incredibly consistent. The name of the firm is precisely consistent. The address is precisely consistent. We mentioned the address was inconsistent in the past. So we've cleaned all that up and had tremendous success with Google Maps SEO. I also mentioned a technology that Geoff's one of the pioneers of, and it's a beta product that we developed at 10 Golden Rules called TGR Boomerang. And again, one of the things that's a mark of success for Geoff, I believe, is his intention to test with us, or his enthusiasm to test things with us and with many other vendors as well. And so we came up with this concept because in the Google local service ads, Google records the calls, and most marketing companies are going to use CallRail or another call recording system. And the customer hears a little whisper that says, this call is being recorded by Google for quality assurance or something of that nature. Now, 5 to 10% of those people hang up. And Google tracks this as a missed call in the system. Now, if you actually miss a call, like if your receptionist is on the phone and your backup receptionist is in the restroom and you actually miss a call, that's even worse because Google's actually docking you for that in the algorithm. If the person hangs up before it hits your switchboard, when they hear the whisper recording, they're not penalizing you in the LSAs. So any missed calls, the ones before it hits your switchboard or after it hits your switchboard, and when people fill out a form on your website, we capture that information and we immediately text it over to the intake team. And they can immediately call these leads back because these leads degrade within about 5 minutes. Meaning that if somebody fills out a form on your website, they might wait a minute or two to see if you call them back. But most people are going to go and look at a couple other lawyer websites at the same time. TGR Boomerang, we call it that. It's like the Australian toy. You throw it and it comes back. These leads immediately get back into your system and you can call them right away. Geoff, how's it working for you guys?
Wow, it's working great. Intake loves it. I got to mention this concept. It's kind of corny, but it's like belt and suspenders. It's like just make sure that nothing bad happens, and it's just added insurance, and it's just great. It's a genius product.
Thank you. Yeah, but what I think Geoff's point is the form fills we're getting emailed. In most cases, they get emailed to your intake team, but most people check their email every couple hours. Well, after 3 hours, a form lead is pretty much dead meat, right? Like you got about 5 minutes. Well, it's a hot lead. We also can use this product for appointment reminders if they're coming into your office, and it's obviously a lead alert system. Well, let's hop into some of the fun stuff, talk about TV. There's 2 parts to this. We mentioned the question and answer video that Geoff has been doing, like how long do I have to file a claim for a truck accident? And this one has 13,000 views, 11,000 views. So some of those videos have gotten a ton of exposure from the natural SEO on YouTube. But Geoff's done some great TV commercials. So now we're going to try technology, and I hope this works. I'm going to flip over to a couple TV commercials, and then Geoff's going to talk about the TV. I think this is one of my favorite TV commercials any of our clients have ever done. And just to be clear, we don't do the TV commercials.
He's always been big.
Okay, smile.
He was the biggest kid in grade school,
Oops.
the biggest in high school. And now when he wins big.
I'm attorney Jeff McDonald. I take on big insurance and make them pay. Big. Serious injury? Put big on your side. Call 888-8888.
I'm going to play one more, and then you'll talk about this campaign.
You saw them at school, on the playground, and today, you see it with accident victims being bullied by insurance companies. I'm attorney Jeff McDonald, and this is my playground. At Jeff McDonald and Associates, We take on the big insurance bullies and bring them down to size. Don't get bullied. Just call Jeff, 888-8888. It's like having a big brother on the playground.
I love that one.
Yeah, that's
So
one of my favorites.
you want to talk a little bit about that portion of the campaign?
Before we started using these commercials, we had pretty good exposure. People knew who we were, but I wasn't like some of my friends. Like when I visit Bill Matar in Buffalo, it's like everywhere we go, people want to get selfies with him. I mean, just a household name. And now it's like pretty much everywhere I go, people come up to me, and an elderly woman came up and whispered in my ear. She said, "You're bigger in person." And my butcher pulled his mask down and he goes, "I hate bullies too." Things like that are happening all the time. It embarrasses the heck out of my kids, but I think they get a kick out of it also. So it really has been a good campaign for us.
Yeah, I love that. And the next one we're going to share is more of a meat and potatoes business campaign, you might call it.
Everything about a big truck crash is serious. At Jeff McDonald and Associates, we give these cases the urgent attention they demand. As soon as you call us, our truck response team jumps into action, gathering evidence, talking to witnesses, getting police reports, and reconstructing the accident in order to build a powerful legal case for you. We're your on-the-scene big truck team. So if you've been injured, call Jeff McDonald and Associates. Don't wait. Call 8. Jeff McDonald and Associates, 948-888-8888.
So that's more like a business one in the line of business about truck accidents. How are those ones doing?
Absolutely. This one's a little bit more direct response. It is specific to trucking cases, but when we run it, we get called all kinds of cases. And so it really has been good for us. Currently, that's been in one of our markets, it's running about 27% of the time. And it's only been running now for probably one quarter. And so we're in the process of seeing how many actual big truck cases we've gotten since we've started running the ad.
I didn't include the stats, but here's an interesting market test. Jeff pulled off TV maybe last summer for 3 or 4 months, and he asked us a very smart, numbers-oriented question. He said, "What's happened to our search results?" And the number of searches for Jeff McDonald, like Jeff McDonald Law Firm, different variants of the brand, went down a little bit, and the number of conversions went down a little bit, and the effectiveness of the advertising went down a little bit. But not just like enough that it was significant and measurable. And then when he goes back on TV, more people search for Jeff McDonald Law Firm, and more people click on his pay-per-click ads and his LSAs. So when you're considering an investment in TV or billboards, which is coming up next, it's going to benefit the digital guys as well. So I don't mind it when you spend some money on advertising.
Yeah, I think the word I'm trying to come up with is synergy. We all really work well together with TV, internet marketing, billboards, radio. And I know some people hate this, but lead gen has been very effective for us as well.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. I worked for many years for Coca-Cola and McDonald's, as you said in my intro. And we would always get the question from the franchisees at McDonald's and the bottler at Coke, do we really need to run TV and radio and billboards? Can we cut, a third of the budget and just take down the billboards or stop the radio? And we would do market tests where we'd try and pick 2 markets about the same size and run 2 of the 3 media and try and put some science to it. And all of the different testing I did, I didn't come up with a lot of very specific answers. More advertising is definitely better. But the one theory I developed is there is a bit of a multiplicity to it. TV plus radio is better than like 1 + 1 = 3.
Yeah.
You called it synergy. Definitely there's, and I used to see it every weekend because once a month we'd start a new promotion for McDonald's and we'd have like new Disney Happy Meal toys. And you'd kind of see it like Thursday night, the billboards would go up, the TV ads would start. Friday morning, the radio and TV would start. And by Friday after school, the stores were mobbed with families looking for the new Disney Happy Meal toy. What I seemed to learn was like, you might see a billboard, but we all get good at tuning out advertising. But then in the morning, like you hear the ad when you're dropping your kids off at school. There's 0 chance you're not going to McDonald's because the multiplicity of it works like. Great.
It's interesting that you mentioned the big box companies that you worked for in the past, McDonald's and Coke. I was reading the Amazon biography, and they were talking about doing a rollout in Mexico, and they felt like one of the vendors was trying to squeeze them. And so they said, well, forget it. We're just not going to go on the web. We're just going to do TV and billboards. But they were still down 1/3. And so they found they had to suck it up and put that component in. And so if you leave one out, you're hurting yourself.
Obviously, the big budgets aren't for everybody. And one of the ways Jeff's paid for some more budgets, as you mentioned, was with the nearshoring. But I'll let you talk about the billboard campaign.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of wins this past year. And as Jay alluded to, it's hard to put your finger on exactly what's responsible for it. But I will say that we increased our outdoor budget by about 621%.
Wow.
From about 70,000 to about 600,000, something like that. And so we just started putting bulletins, the big boards, and then the posters everywhere we could. And we feel like it really has been effective. Historically, it's been called a branding play, but I feel like it's a little bit more than that. It sort of helps create this whole wraparound effect, like people see you everywhere. And so I feel like that was one of our wins. And of course, we've got a great repeater number in both of our main markets, Richmond and Tidewater, 888-8888. And so it's very easy for people to remember us. And I got tired of all of my competitors bragging about their big wins. And so I decided to do it too. And so we had the record settlement for, I think it was like in 2023, we had a $38 million class action settlement. And so we decided to put that out there and let people know, hey, we're doing okay too. These are a couple of our billboards that just went up.
Talk to us a little bit about moving into a new market and how you launched the market staff. So many people are looking at adding second and third markets for the benefit of Google Maps and LSAs.
I'm happy to. And particularly if we have some younger attorneys on here or new operations or marketing directors, man, I would be happy to talk to you about all of the mistakes I've made growing my law firm. But when I was a young attorney, probably in my first 10 years, I decided to have offices all over the state. And so I was everywhere. I was in Virginia Beach, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Hampton, Alexandria, Richmond, of course, and a couple other places, Roanoke, Waynesboro, actual brick and mortar offices. But what I found I was doing was I was a mile wide and an inch deep. I really didn't get any traction in any market, not even my main market. And so what I have since learned is that you want to go deep in your market, your current market. You want to bust that market out. Once you feel like you're getting close to the top of your market, and there are several ways you can tell whether you're getting towards, you're knocking on the ceiling a little bit. One is no matter how much money you spend, you're just not getting an appreciable amount of more cases, or your acquisition cost is not good. Like if it's your acquisition cost went from like 2,500 to 5,000, hey, how much more can you do? You want to have a spread between your average fee and your acquisition cost of at least $10,000 is sort of the rule of thumb that we use here. So maybe you can handle a $5,000 or $10,000 acquisition cost if your average fee is over $20,000. But anyway, it's just something to think about. But as soon as you feel like you've gotten all you can out of this market, that's when you go to a new market and try to do the same thing. And it's much easier, I found, to get going in your new market because you can take advantage of certain economies of scale, because you already have an intake team, you already have an accounting team, you already have a personal injury team, you already have a workers' compensation team. And so now you're just adding clients to your firm. And so we opened up our second office in Tidewater. It's been a slow build, but our signups grew 73% this past year and almost the same last year. And so we feel like we're on track. We're still not, our marketing budget is still not quite equal to our Richmond market, but it's getting closer. And certainly our cases aren't anywhere close, but we've been here for 30 years. We feel like we're a little bit ahead of where we thought we would be.
I love it how every time you mention a business fact, you have a business number to back it up, back to measure what matters. And that's one of the key learnings I want everyone to take from this, because I talk to about 100 attorneys every month. And probably the number one or definitely number one of the 100 is Jeff when it comes to paying attention to his numbers and his success. And the two run hand in hand. That's a big part of the message I wanted to share today. So we're not done. We got a couple more great topics to get into, and then we'll leave some time for questions. And this is a topic that I'm pretty passionate about because, like I said, I probably talk to 4 or 5 different prospects, like firms that we're not working with every week. Maybe half of them I meet at a conference or met at a conference and they got on our email list or something. And about half of them don't go to conferences. They're like, nah, I'm not the conference type. And I would say that the conference guys and gals are about 3 to 4 times the size of the non-conference people. Jeff and I are both pretty into conferences and masterminds. I'm going to group them together, and I'll talk a little bit about the conference for a minute because this is our conference called TGR Live, Growth Strategies for Law Firms. Jeff was one of the speakers last year, and his marketing director won the Client of the year before. And we get about 100, 150 lawyers and some of the best vendors in the industry together every year in South Florida in the middle of March, which is a beautiful time to be here. We'd love to see you all at TGR Live, March 16th and 17th, 2026. And we've got an amazing lineup of speakers already. But enough of the commercial. There's a mastermind where Jeff and I met at a mastermind, and we go twice a year if I'm lucky enough to be invited back to speak. But I'm booked for January. We're going to the mastermind. Jeff, I'm sure you'll be there.
I will.
I want to share one of the key messages that I learned from Jeff because one time I was lucky enough to have the seat kitty corner from Jeff on the plane. And this isn't Jeff, but I could see him working away the whole trip. And he had these notes going, and he had his laptop and his iPad. And when we were waiting for our luggage, I asked him, I said, Jeff, what were you doing? You were working the whole time. Like, we've been working the last 3 days at this mastermind. Couldn't you just watch a movie or something? He said, no. This is the critical time where I take all the key information I learned at the conference and I send it to my team. And sure enough, Monday morning, his marketing team was on the phone, on the email to our team. Hey, Jeff wants to do this. Jeff wants to learn about that. Jeff's asking about this. So why don't you talk a little bit about how you execute, and you could talk generally about masterminds and conferences, but also this tremendous execution that I saw firsthand.
Yeah, sure. So first of all, when you talk about a mastermind group, for the attorneys who aren't familiar with that concept, it's a best practice group. And so we're all in the same space. Usually we're market exclusive, but not always. Sometimes, a competitor shows up, but that's okay because we're all just trying to get better. We're trying to build a better mousetrap. And so I've been going to these really since I started practicing law. And I distinctly remember being one of the new guys and looking what these other law firms were doing and thinking, holy cow, how can they do that? How can they afford to do that? That sounds like a good idea, but it probably costs money. And anyway, you keep coming, and then before you know it, you're one of those guys, and you're doing all of those things. You're one of the top spenders on TV in your market. You have a robust outdoor billboard campaign. You're adhering to best practices with internet marketing. You're on radio. You're in the community. You're doing all the things that everybody said that you should do. And you have lead gen, but not just one lead gen company. You have 5 or 6 lead gen companies. And we always try to have 5 or 6. I would say if you don't go to these things, you should go. And Jay, even if you don't invite me to be a speaker, I'm still planning on coming to your conference because it was great just for the people that you get to meet when you're there. And I think the question had to do with execution. So this is like execution 201. It's not entry level. Number 1, attorneys, go yourself. Don't send your marketing director. You can bring them with you. Don't bring any other attorneys with you unless they're your kids, because this is good information, but you don't necessarily want everyone to have this information. And when you go, write down, take copious notes, and then at the end of the day, put stars by things that you'd like to try. We call them action items. And then typically there are several segments, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, afternoon, morning, whatever. And so you pull certain action items. And what Jay was talking about was I was making a separate list of all of my action items, and I was sending them to my management team. And I said, hey, these are the things, these are the vendors. And when you go there are a lot of great vendors. For example, we need a vendor who can do a download on a cell phone to prove that this 18-wheeler that was driven by a drunk driver was also looking at something he shouldn't have been looking at on his phone when he plowed into our client. What was the name of that guy? Oh yeah, I emailed this all to my operations manager and my personal injury director. I said, call this guy if you ever need to do a download on a cell phone, because he'll do it for you. And so it's really invaluable. The offshore company that we ended up using is friends with one of my friends from the M&L marketing. And if you're sitting here thinking, well, who's going to invite me? How do I find out about them? Feel free to talk to me afterwards. Shoot me a message, give me a call, 888-8888. I'll try to get you into one of mine, because we love the new guys, because that's kind of how we get better, is by passing this information on.
Yeah, I'll build on a couple of the points Jeff made. As a matter of fact, I start out my conference. We give everyone a 10 Golden Rules notebook, and I hold the notebook up and I say, the first thing I want you to do is I want you to scroll about 3 pages in, and I want you to put notes at the top of the page, put notes. And then I want you to go back to the first page, and I want you to put to-dos. And that's the way I take my notes. Like exactly what Jeff said. I write down my notes, and then at the end of each session, I put a star beside the ones, okay, these are great ideas, but maybe it's not for us right now, but this one is fantastic. We can do it, and it's going to solve this problem. So it goes on my to-do list at the end of the session or at the end of the day when you get a break in the hotel room. And then all of those to-dos, I end up with 10 or 15 from every conference, including the legal conferences, because all these guys are talking about their marketing ideas or different things that are working to build Google reviews or whatever. And most of my best ideas are stolen from these conferences. And then I share them with all my other clients. Starring and to-doing and getting them to done is critical, because so many people say, like, oh, I go to these conferences, I get all hyped up and I don't do anything with it. You got to spend the time on the plane, spend the time in the hotel to get it to done. The other thing I'll mention is I've been very fortunate to be in a fantastic mastermind with other agency owners. And like 10 Golden Rules, we only focus on lawyers. I'm in a mastermind with experts who are also specialists in different areas. And frankly, I've become really good friends with a couple of the guys who also work with lawyers. We're direct competitors, but we call it co-opetition, because a lot of times there's leads that we send to each other that aren't a fit for us, but the other guy would love it. I've learned so much from this mastermind. As a matter of fact, we made the Inc. 5000 this year for one of the top 5,000 fastest growing firms in America. And I directly attribute it to everything I've learned and executed that I took from the mastermind. One of the things Jeff was talking about was something someone tells you in a meeting. And I'm sitting in a meeting, and one of the top guys, Matt Platt from America's Best Restaurants, he says, Jay, I'm looking at your LinkedIn and it hasn't been updated in months. You don't do marketing for your own agency? I said, oh, of course I do. I do a webinar every month, a podcast every week, but my team hadn't been putting it on LinkedIn. And he said, how many people do you have in your marketing department? I said, I have one half-time person. And what Jeff said earlier was a lot of the bigger people have something aspirational. Now we have a full-time person and a part-time person working on our marketing. And I used to just use the people who worked on our client work part-time to work on our marketing. But the difference is you got to have someone focused on a task, because our employees will always put our clients first. So I learned that at the mastermind. One of the members pushed me, and we all push each other to be great. We learn from what they do and what works. And America's Best Restaurants is coming close to being a $10 million marketing firm. And thank you, Matt. And there's your shout out, by the way, buddy. Okay, we got a couple more, Jeff, and then we'll take some questions. I think this is the last section, which is lead gen. And Jeff mentioned that a lot of people have negative impressions about lead gen. Yeah.
Yeah. So my thoughts are that I was one of those people. My philosophy was you should spend every penny of your marketing budget on building brand. And when you're buying leads, you're not building brand. You're not getting your name out there. You're just buying leads. But what I found is that brand is good, but cases are better. That's what pays the bills, or clients. And so what we found is that we can buy leads and we could acquire cases typically less than what our average acquisition cost is. For example, our all-in acquisition cost right now is just a hair over $2,500. And our lead gen is less than that by a little bit.
So this chart's telling us, I think these are 4 different lead gen vendors, and I think you have 5 right now. And you spent almost $300,000, but the cost of a call was $230. and your cost per wanted case was $1,500.
1,500. So it's about half, but we spend. They get clients organically.
And right around where the pay-per-click, we were around 1,300 or 1,400 for the pay-per-click cases, right?
Yep, pay-per-click is another great use of your spend. I'm a big believer. Historically, we just have one or two, but I do what the successful law firms do. I try to emulate them, and they typically have 5 or 6 in play or more at any given time, and so we do too.
We're going to see in the chat if we have any questions. Go ahead and ask questions, and maybe my team can check the LinkedIn and send us a couple questions from there. While we wait for that, Geoff, I know one other thing you wanted to talk about was radio.
Yeah, we're on radio in our 2 main markets, and we've increased our spend this past year 111%, just to kind of keep our name out there. Most of our radio is public service. We're reminding people not to text and drive, not to drink and drive safe during the holidays. And again, it's like everything else. It's just a slow play, bit of a branding play. But I really believe that the more places people hear of us, the more traction we get and the more phone calls we get. I feel like it builds our credibility. I didn't used to be a believer. I'm a believer now.
Okay, great. So the first question I see is from Jonathan. Thank you. Has the non-branded organic traffic grown? You showed the keyword ranking growth. What about non-branded organic?
It sounds like a Jay question.
So it sounds like a trick question. Great question. Yeah, the organic traffic's grown, and basically the site took a huge hit. We called it falling off the Google cliff, and we had to reestablish the site with Google. And we actually took a whole bunch of pages off the website because things like flowering trees in Virginia and things to do with your kids in the summer in Virginia had been previously ranked, and then Google stopped showing those things. And then having non-lawyer related pages on the website was hurting the overall website. So we did what's called culling, or reducing a number of pages on the website, and started building up more and more content with blogs and the video blogs we talked about, question and answer content. And slowly we built the website back up to the point where we're getting tons of ranking for the branded stuff when somebody searches Geoff McDonald Law Firm, but tons and tons of non-branded. And in particular, a lot of question and answer stuff, which is a lot of the SEO that we've been designing. How long does it take to get paid in a workers' compensation case? Or what's the statute of limitations for a truck accident case? And those are the kind of things where Geoff's ranking on the first page. One of the other things I didn't mention is the SEO is closely linked to map SEO. So the algorithms are basically joined at the hip. And what we see every month when we look at Geoff's numbers and everybody else's numbers, when his SEO goes up, his map traffic goes up. The number of times he shows up in Google Maps, the number of people who ask for directions, call from the maps phone, etc. When Google writes their code for LSAs, pay-per-click, SEO maps, all the YouTube, all those things are linked intrinsically at the hip. Another question from Elizabeth for Geoff, Kendra, and LinkedIn. Oh, Elizabeth is sending us from LinkedIn. That website redesign drove a 300% jump in leads. What specific changes made the biggest difference, and how do you know they were working?
Great question. I think you probably know the answer better than I do.
Yeah,
I can give my answer.
Sure.
And then I'll let Jay give you the right answer. I believe we redid our website. Seems like it took forever. Sorry, Jay. But when it finally was ready to go, oh my God, it was like night and day. It was just a faster website. We beta tested a few things, and I think Jay just talked about it. We got rid of the web form and just said, call here, call this number, call now. And it seems like people want to talk to somebody and they call. And it resulted in, my numbers are off slightly from Jay's, but not by much, 182% up in calls from our website, and increase in cases, I think 44%. So
fantastic.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah, we did some testing before we designed the website because Geoff does a lot of pay-per-click advertising. And I think we had like 4,000 or 5,000 clicks a month. So what we did is a lot of A/B testing and ABC testing. So what we did is took a design of a landing page, which is when somebody clicks on a paid ad, we can direct them to which page on the website they go to. The most obvious is like you'll have a different car accident page, truck accident page, motorcycle accident page, slip and fall page, workers' compensation page. So we maybe did two versions of the car accident page, car accident A, car accident B. And car accident A had the form on it, the old way we used to do it. And car accident B just had a phone number. And then car accident B got way more leads than car accident A. So now B became the new champion, and we tested C. And that's where Geoff talked earlier about testing different colors. So we tested different button colors and different coloring, and we tested E, D, and F. And so after about 6 months of this testing, we had some pretty good data that we used in the new website design. Let's take one more question, and then I think we're right about time. And Geoff and I'd be happy to answer any questions. You can find us on LinkedIn, find us on Geoff McDonald Law, obviously on the internet, 10 Golden Rules. Question for Jay from Billy and X. Looking back at this growth story, what's a single data point or metric you now track religiously that you weren't paying attention to before? It's a very good question.
I know my answer, but I want to hear your answer.
Yeah. I mean, I think part of the answer is that we were always focused on website traffic, leads, or basically calls, forms, and chats, and number of cases. And then on the paid stuff, the cost per case, cost per lead, cost per case. I guess the new data point we're looking at is AI. How much are we coming up in the AI searches for our clients, and how many times people are clicking and coming to the website? And it's just starting. It's a trickle. We're starting to see traffic from ChatGPT, Perplexity, and Claude, and some of the other engines. So I guess the new data point we're looking at is AI results.
Wow. You said that it's only about 5% of the searches currently?
ChatGPT has about 1 million searches a day, and Google and YouTube together have about 97 million or something like that.
Okay. I think that it's going to grow. I believe AI is going to be bigger than the internet. You remember how internet changed everything? I remember when it first came out, our marketing department, which was probably me, started tracking what percentage of our clients had email, and it was like 5%. And this was probably like in the mid 90s or something like that. And now it's like 100%. And so AI is just going to take over everything. So
Awesome. Well, Geoff, this was really, really fun. By the way, if anyone's been watching all this time, we really appreciate it. And give us a follow, subscribe on our YouTube channel. My YouTube guy reminded me to ask for that. And give us a thumbs up and a like and a 5-star rating if you're on iTunes or Podbean. Geoff, thank you so much for being here. We'll do it all again. And definitely if you're coming to TGR Live, maybe we'll just roll this case study out again and update it for everybody.
all right, let's do it. That
Thanks,
sounds
buddy.
good. I
Thank you
enjoyed
so
it.
much.
Thanks, Jay. I appreciate it. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the 10 Golden Rules of Internet Marketing for Law Firms podcast. Please send questions and comments to podcast@10goldenrules.com. That is podcast@TENGoldenrules.com.